Hey everyone. Okay, so today I am coming to you because I just looked down at my phone and realized that I was just booking a yoga class. I realized tomorrow is March 11th. Now, this is going to mark, tomorrow will mark 11 years since the worst day of my life by a landslide. And so I kind of just wanted to come on here and talk about it every year when it goes by. I don't really anticipate it or cry or whatever, but because it's this worst day of my life thing, like I deal with it. Grief happens very much in waves and not in a straight line. And so I deal with my grief and the repercussions of my trauma regularly. But today, tomorrow, I don't intend on feeling any different than I would on any other day. But the fact that this day is coming makes me kind of want to make a video and kind of explain to you guys just a quick journey through what happened so that you can kind of understand where I'm coming from, why I am so dedicated and so passionate about mental health, um, why I care so much about hyping other people up and making them feel good and inspiring people and living life now, and just so many things about why I am the way I am are what happened to me in my post traumatic growth. So after this event happened, I restarted my life and I took a closer look at what drives people, what is the purpose of life, why was my life spared in this moment when I very well could have been a victim of this experience. And I could have died that day, but why did I not? Why was I given a second chance, and why am I still here on this earth? What is my purpose? And what brings people purpose? So ever since 11 years ago tomorrow, I have been on this really impactful journey of diving deeper and trying to figure out what's important to me and what's important in life. And a lot of lessons and a lot of experiences have come. So how do I begin discussing this? I am trying to figure out how much in depth I should explain this. I haven't really talked about it in a while, and it's very, very heavy. So, anyone who's watching, I want to give you the permission right now. There is domestic violence, there is suicide, and there is those two things. If those trigger you or make you uncomfortable, please turn away now and check in with me next week, because it's pretty heavy. And I plan on going into more depth in the future, in future videos, when I get more comfortable posting private, personal information online, because this is something that is going to take time for me to be really comfortable with opening up to the world about it. As much as I feel comfortable talking about it in a safe space, I don't know what to expect by videoing my experience, discussing it and sharing it with the world. Um, but yeah, let's say that, to make a long story short, 11 years ago tomorrow, at the time, I was living in Port Orange, which is a little nicer town right outside of Daytona Beach, Florida. And at this point in time, I loved my life. I had just graduated from Florida State University with a psychology degree in 2010. And then I fast forward, I meet someone, fall in love, and things move fast. I move in with him after only a couple months' time, and we live right outside Daytona at an apartment. I moved into his apartment, and honestly, everything was amazing. I loved him to death. We loved each other. We took a million photos. He had a dog. We really did have a really good life. And so one day he started to get a little bit, he started to act very possessive and started to act different. And I said, hey, listen, I don't know if we moved in together too fast because there's lots of fighting and lots of possessive jealousy stuff that's coming out of nowhere. It's kind of freaking me out. Let's take a step back. Why don't I get my own apartment and we'll go from there? He said, no, no, no. I'll take a work off Monday. I'll go to the doctor and get prescribed something. And so I went with him on that Monday. He got prescribed something called, I really have blacked it out right now. I'll tell you at the end. But anyways, he got prescribed an anti-anxiety medication and that was it. We didn't talk too much about it. Everything was good from there on out for the next week. And then one night he said he wanted to go check on his brother. His brother had been known to use painkillers and he was worried about him. He hadn't heard from him in a few days. And he said, I'm going to go check on my brother. And I went off to work. He calls me many, 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 many times while I'm at work. Call. I need your help. I need you. It's kind of freaking me out. But at the time, I didn't take this stuff so seriously because nothing horrible has ever happened, really. So he's calling, I need you. My brother, his elbow is bleeding. I was like, this is so strange. I was like, is it serious? Like, if his elbow's just bleeding, like, take him to the hospital. I'll catch up with you after. You can handle this. And so I didn't make too much of it. And I just thought, wow, what is going on? And anyways, I guess I'm really making this video not for you guys so much as for myself to process a little bit more. I really haven't talked about it in quite a while. It's usually with a therapist or, a very close person in my life. And yeah, so that happened. I thought it was odd and the behavior was just very strange. I worked at a bar restaurant called the Oyster Pub in Daytona Beach. And when I got off work, I called him and could not get in touch with him. And I was just feeling extremely uneasy. I got a drink with my coworkers after work. And I remember very vividly having a conversation with another girl I worked with saying, I don't feel safe to go home. He doesn't want me working late. And I had to close that night. Bars were open till 3 a.m. And so or 2 a.m. So I'm having a drink at 2:30 a.m. saying, I'm afraid to go home because no matter how soon I go home, even if I just worked until 2, show up at home, I'm afraid that he's going to hurt me or freak out on me because he had left me. I mean, the couple weeks prior to me thinking about moving out and him going to the doctor, he had kicked me out of the house out of nowhere with no shoes, no phone, no nothing, in the midst of like a huge fight. And I was afraid that something worse was going to happen. And so I shared with a girl, I don't feel safe to go home. I don't really know what to do, but I'll just do it. And she was like, you should never, ever, ever feel unsafe with your significant other. And I was like, you're right, but I do, and it's fine. And I'm sure it'll be fine and everything will work out. So I go home. He's not there. Again, I think, what the hell, he's probably fine. I call him and he kept insinuating that he was at a girl's house or doing something shady, and he was just off, like very off. It was like 3 a.m. He was just very off. He's like, I'm at a friend's house, da 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 da. And I was like, okay, well, why aren't you telling me where you are? And what is this? It was so out of character. So yeah, that happened. I went to sleep. I woke up and he was a different person that day. I will tell you guys more details about what happened after that. Between this and this, but it just so much happened. I'm not in a place where I can express this whole thing, I think, to the internet quite yet. But what I can tell you is that the ultimate end of what happened the next day is that he ended his own life after attempting to end mine. And it's crazy how grief works because the day, the week, the month, the year after it happened, I probably appeared and felt um, determined to everything's going to be okay because it has to be. I'm not going to let this define me. I'm not going to go do drugs. I'm not going to blah, blah, blah. So I suppressed all of that and I did not deal with it. And I don't recommend this because the way that I have had to deal with it is suppressing it so much. The analogy that I make is it feels like I have condensed all of the feelings that I'd never felt then into a bottle of champagne. And every time something, uh, as went on, it just shook a little and filled a little bit. And eventually, um, you know, for some reason, I was triggered it to pop off and for my emotional turmoil to just explode and spray everywhere when I moved to San Diego and had been dating someone who I believe to have some narcissistic traits and tendencies, or at least in the way that he treated me when I was going through some stuff. And yeah, so it was hard to deal with. I didn't deal with it properly. I bottled it up. And then many years later, when getting treated mm, not that great in a relationship, it triggered me into a year, at least a year of me feeling lower than low, lower than the ground, worse than dead. Not that I think that being dead is bad. I believe the afterlife is blissful. However, the way that I felt on this earth after the analogous bottle that I speak of the suppressed emotions popped and exploded everywhere, I felt so suicidal and so bad, horrible. Just, I felt lower than the ground, felt like a dead man walking. I still showed up for work every day. I still fucking walked the walk. And I don't know if I smiled, but I'm pretty good at putting on a happy face. But this shit was really hard. And so the way that I look at this is that you could do it my way. You could go through losing your love of your life to suicide or otherwise, and you could say everything's fine, I'm fine, and you could deal with it later and possibly feel like I felt suicidal for a consistent year plus with no one for support. Or what I wish that I had the maturity and self-love for myself to do is to deal with these things right away, to be vulnerable. Because what did I use 10 did I lose 10 years of my life pretending that I was fine and everything was okay because it was uncomfortable for people to hear me talk about? No, I should have been in lots of therapy, lots of grief counseling, something. Instead, no, when that happened, I moved home from Florida to Massachusetts to be with my family. They tried to be supportive, but they didn't know what to say. Friends, family. Some things people said helped. Most things people said were kind of just taking my cue and just sweeping it under the rug, moving on. But the reason why I'm doing this really is so I can kind of rewatch how me expressing this process is received. And my ultimate message that I want to share is There's an easy way and there's a hard way. If you're going through the hardest fucking shit of your entire life, don't choose the hard way more. Give yourself a little love and a little grace and allow for healing to begin to take place, because there's got to be somebody that loves you to support you. There are resources. I've always been so stuck with my ego and being tough that I'm not trying to be a baby, you know? But it's not being a baby, it's looking out for your future mental health and not finding yourself in a place alone, the bottom of rock bottom, having the having the craving and the urge to fucking jump off a building. Or that's what it was for me. I felt like every cell in my body was hell bent on jumping off the highest thing I could find. That was my thing. And I've never really identified what stage that I was at with my um, experience with thoughts of suicide. And I never really wanted my life to be over, but I wanted the pain to stop. And I know that I love my friends and family and I love life. So I knew that I would never do it. But the feeling was there, the urge. I always thought feeling suicidal would feel, a younger feeling. Like thinking about it, I was like, oh, that must feel like you're so depressed or something. I couldn't imagine it. But after experiencing it so much, it's like, I feel so worthless and defeated. And it was really the ultimate feeling. You know what it was? It was not being validated or understood or heard or loved or cared about or hugged or embraced. And honestly, if I could go back, I fucking wouldn't, because if I did not feel what it felt to not have my needs met in such a way that I had the 100 million% urge craving to fucking splat myself, fucking, it was an urge because I did not get the validation and the love and the support that I needed, to the fact that one of my biggest memories of that time was sitting in a parking lot in my car crying, and then going inside at a gas station to go inside and pay for my gas. Now, I had been crying, and the guy behind the counter said, your mascara or whatever is your makeup is running. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And he was like, no need to apologize to me. He's like, I was just letting you know, do you need a hug? And he gave me a hug. And honestly, that I will never forget that person in that moment, because I was really, really, really struggling. And a lot of times when you see, when anybody sees somebody who is acting overly emotional, or acting in a way that does not acting in a way that just isn't the norm or acceptable behavior for whatever circumstance, scenario, or location that you're at, you look at that person, right? And what do you say? Oh, she's crazy. Oh, he's crazy. Oh, they're so emotional. You're invalidating them and you're hurting them more by judging them, by invalidating them. This might be the worst day of their life. You have no fucking idea what they're going through. So treat everybody as if they are. I, since 2011, March 11th, 2011, since that, I believe, for the most part, I treat every single human that I come across in a way that they are thinking or potentially about to end their life, or they just had the worst day of their life, because you never know. You the way you treat someone may, and this is a lot of pressure to put on yourself. I'm not trying to put this pressure on you, but for some reason, God, the universe, my circumstance has put me in a position where I do put this on my shoulder to treat everybody as if it is their last day on earth, whether they were or are to end it themselves or whether they get into car accident, whatever. This is a really good lesson as a takeaway for anybody, whether you've ever even lost anybody or not. You could. This conversation, this interaction with somebody that you're having, it might be the last one. You never know. Have you ever seen that meme that's like, one day everybody came in from recess or came from playing with the kids in the neighborhood and no one ever knew that would be the last day that they would play. So just be, my guidance for anyone watching is to just be a little bit more aware and cognizant of the effect that you have on other people, because that is our superpower. That's mine. I know that my ultimate goal in life is not to change the political climate of the world, although I would love to. Um, I do know that my day-to-day ripple effect comes from my interaction with other people, and that the more integrity I have and the more genuine I am, the better this fucking world will be. So, anyways, I'm not sure if this video made sense at all, but I realized that tomorrow is going to be the 11-year anniversary from losing my boyfriend, Stephen Arnold, in 2011. And every year that this comes around, in my mind, I say I would love to share my story. Last year, I said to myself, I'm going to hop on and I'm going to share my story because I have to start somewhere. And I just did not press play, did not, the recording, the words did not come out of my mouth. And this may be a hot mess and it just doesn't matter. Like in the future, I promise you guys, I will pre-plan a little bit more and have a more easy to watch video that is for your benefit. However, today, my goal is to get more comfortable or just start to dip my toes into getting comfortable with sharing some of the details of what I've experienced in my life, because I know for a fact, hands down, I know for a fact that my value comes in sharing my story and in reaching people who have been or will go through what I went through, because it is such a rare, although not as rare as I would hope or wish, circumstance to be in. When Stephen passed away, I literally went online, after a few days after blah, blah, blah. I was at my mom's place in Florida and I Googled, what do I do next? I literally Googled it. I said, how do you cope with your boyfriend dying? What do I do next? Where do I go from here? And what I found was very limited, if not hardly anything online. But what I did find was some advice to, punch a pillow. But ultimately, what I did find on Google was someone wrote that it's helpful to write a letter to the person that has passed away. And so I did that, and it was really helpful. But that was the only thing that I did. I did nothing except for move home, start 3 jobs, take classes, and drink and party with my friends when I wasn't at work. Now, you may have judged me at the time thinking that I care about partying, but little did was I even aware of or conscious with at the time was that I'm doing it to numb and distract and avoid. Doing all of that to avoid facing what I really had to deal with, because I did not sign up for dealing with that. I did not sign up to experience this, and there was nothing I could do to change it. And I didn't know how to accept something like that. So I avoided it, I distracted it, I numbed. And I probably wasn't the best person at the time. I was probably really shitty. But there's so many more details to this I really want to share. But for now, this is the best I can do for now. And I know that so recap, I'm I'm a graduate student for couples and family therapy. And I've learned a lot about grief and coping and how we have to be aware of something to change something. And dang, I did not expect myself to get so like, I'm not so emotional, but I'm like, I can feel it coming up and it feels like tears. Um, and I think it's healthy to cry. And I think it's healthy to mourn and grieve as long as you need to. But I just don't often fully express myself. Not even that I fully express myself, but this is therapeutic. Anyways, so I hope no one watches this, but if you do, just go easy on me because this was hard to kind of get the words out today. And my goal for sure is to share more, to tell you the whole story, to tell you what I've done since then, and come up with some guidelines for anybody who, I know in this climate there's so much crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'm sure that people are losing loved ones. So I know that you guys will need support. Um, and so I plan to share some more coping strategies and things like that. But for now, I just kind of wanted to get on here and just do a little video diary. Thank you for listening and, not being hard on me, but I am kind of speechless. So thanks for listening. You guys, have a good week. I plan to start uploading more so I can get more practice expressing myself and not talk with pauses and uh, ums and things like that. And I also am learning more about videoing and editing and things like that. So edited videos coming to a theater near you soon. Probably might be like a month or two out, but stay tuned. Thank you guys for listening and for being my therapist today. Have a good one. See you next week. See you next Thursday. See you next time. Goodbye.